Uber drivers. And people know a little more about it than I think most people realize, and they see what's going on. So really, really good points. And I want to take a second to welcome Jordan up to the stage. Thank you for joining us. He'll be speaking at Bitcoin 2023. Jordan, welcome up. I don't know if you've been listening along, but we've been kind of just talking about our entry points into Bitcoin, making it seem a little less scary for those who maybe like this is where they're at right now in their journey. So we'd love to hear a little from you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll keep it short. I just came on when Ben Askren was on the stage, and as an MMA jiu-jitsu guy, obviously a big fan, but it looks like he has departed. But I'm glad to see that he's a Bitcoiner, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Carla and Walker. I mean, the content you guys are putting out is amazing, second to none. There's so much demand for that in this space, especially when I think that most people just get into it. I mean, I could speak to me personally around 2015, 2016. I remember buying my first Bitcoin purchase on Coinbase, and there was really no like marketing or anything like that. You just had like Pomp and a couple other people talking about how Bitcoin was going to go to infinity on Twitter, but there was really nothing in terms of like videos or interesting stuff, and until I think Saifedean wrote the Bitcoin Standard, which is very intriguing to a widespread audience. But now we have like all of these. I don't want to call them content creators or influencers because I hate that word, those terms. But it's just like the quality of material that Bitcoiners are producing today. It is very inspiring. And I know like a lot of people have left very lucrative careers or have left the shitcoin space to enormous detriment to their personal fiscal well-being, at least in the short term. And it was interesting because 2015, 2016, 2017, I remember on Coinbase you could basically buy they only had 3 coins on there instead of 3,000 today or whatever it is. And it was Litecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. And when I first started buying this stuff, I was just like, you know, like it was basically just like investing in a tech stock, which I think is the perspective of basically any new coiner today. I don't think that they can really differentiate until they go down the rabbit hole a little bit. But what was interesting to me, what really started my journey on the path to becoming a Bitcoiner, was that I forgot what year it was. It must have been at least 5 years ago, where the founder of Litecoin, I remember I was like split 1/3 each, had really no idea what I was doing. And I remember reading this news release that the founder of Litecoin had just sold his entire bag. And this was at like the top. And I remember him saying something like, like I was starting to buy into the fact that like this crypto stuff, we're going to create the future of money. We're going to have all these different currencies. And I remember the founder of Litecoin dumped all his bag for for cash, and cashed out for like billions of dollars. I think it was Litecoin. I'm pretty sure. And so that kind of got me reoriented into the right place, to becoming, I would say, for at least several years now, like very much in a Bitcoin only space. But I think what really separates crypto people from Bitcoiners is education. And I was just kind of lucky enough to fall into my own investigative rabbit hole, realizing that it wasn't just, the Litecoin guy that was doing this, but basically everyone involved in this universe was doing the same thing, that they were just pumping and dumping bags of vaporware coins. So I think for me, I got lucky, but I just want to appreciate everyone that's producing amazing stuff out there and really changing hearts and minds for the better and turning people into Bitcoiners in that way.
I love it. I love it. And it's you bring up a good point when you kind of go back and you look back through things, like we've come so far. Imagine what's going to happen over the next, wave of the next few years. There's a need for all kinds of content out there. We got to be able to, be the effective marketing department basically of Bitcoin. So thank you for sharing that. And I'll echo it. I love Carla and Walker. I love your approach. Like I said before, I just think it's so relatable. It meets people where they are. And Tatum, welcome up to the stage. Another Bitcoin 2023 speaker joining us. So what's your Bitcoin story? It seems like that's the theme. Let's hear it. And then I'm also kind of curious too, for anybody to chime in of, what are the questions that people are asking you right now?
So, two things. One, I did not know until just now that I'm on stage. I think I accidentally requested, but happy to be here. Thanks for bringing me up. Two, I also didn't know that I was speaking at the conference, but I'm excited about that too. Apparently, I'll figure something out. But yeah, I like Bitcoin. And tell my quick IMDb story. Uh, I I heard about Bitcoin in like, gosh, it was early on, like everyone, and didn't know what it was. All the resources back then were literally like Bitcoin talk, and that's really just a hard UX UI experience. And you also at that point back in you know early 2010s, uh, you really had to be a nerd to be on Bitcoin talk. And so I tried looking at some of the stuff. I was like, yeah, nah, forget this. Then on Robinhood, I bought like $10 of Bitcoin in 2018, and I was in college back then. And as a college student, 3 days later, beer was the most important thing. So I sold that Bitcoin for like a $3 profit or something, and went and got some beer, and didn't touch it for I guess 2 more years. And I was in the graduating class right when COVID hit, and and I was also in I was finance bro, sorry, but we were in security analysis at the time, and we started looking at all these things that were just happening at a extremely wild level and speed. And I was like, this seems weird. Like, I don't know what's going on here. Like, there's just a lot of this stuff seems very just, I don't like it. And that's one thing that I think is really interesting is that, like, a lot of people go to college and get a degree and learn about stuff that they want to do the rest of their life. I was in finance, and the more I learned about it, the more I was like, this sucks. Like, this, I don't trust anyone here. Like, this is all BS. And so then that was when I don't really know what the actual like connection point was, but I realized that Bitcoin solved like all the problems that I was consistently seeing in all of my classes. And so after college, I worked the TradFi life for a little bit, hated it every single moment, felt like I was scamming people, dealing with fiat and selling fiat products. And then I was like, you know what, I don't want to do this, aped out. And now I'm just stacking harder and harder every day, trying to teach people about it, and also making really stupid videos at the same time. So, uh, yeah, that's my story.
I thought it was a podcast that you had, not
No,
videos.
so it's not actually podcasts, but
Huh. Strange.
Dallas, did you raise your hand or were you high-fiving?
I'm always
And
high
thank you,
fiving.
Tatum. Oh, okay, you're high-fiving.
But
Thank you,
no,
Tatum.
but I was gonna say, I mean, just you. I think you have posed that question before, Carly, about like what are some of the questions like most people have. Like I said, came back to the States. I'm here like once a year at this point now, and like I'm always talking to people about stuff. So there's kind of three things that stand out for me. One, I think people so often if they learn about Bitcoin and then they're like, okay, I'm gonna get involved. They think that being involved and having Bitcoin means that you're like trading or you're a day trader. I think a lot of people think that, and I would bet it's because like a lot of the budgets to market at people have been because from exchanges who make money from you trading, so they've kind of infecting people's minds in that way. So I think that's one big thing. Number two, a lot of people don't know or think that you can spend it anywhere. They think that it's just still something that's like totally disconnected. There's no real way to spend it. and actually use it, other than it's kind of just like a thing where you park money and hopefully it goes up and I have more money, and then maybe there'll be someday in the future I use it. I think a lot of people have that disconnect. And then the third part, I think people like really generally speaking have like zero knowledge of like the relationship between supply, market cap, and understanding like unit bias. And I think some of them, a lot of people casually have heard about whatever, like, pick your meme coin and, set 7 zeros and then some small digits that it is, that it is in USD value. I think a lot of people don't understand, just like that unit bias that they have at Bitcoin. They look at it and sometimes I think it feels daunting because like, well, I can't even afford a whole one. So like they then sort of want to seek other opportunities. But yeah, the reality is like most people don't have money. And so they're short-term focused on maximizing how they can get a ton of money in a short period of time. And so by doing that, they don't know, but they're opening themselves up to like massive risk that they have just zero awareness of and how to balance and protect. And so I think those are kind of the core things. But yeah, what do you guys think?
I think the get rich quick mentality is like you hit the nail on the head there, because it's kind of like a tortoise and the hare situation, right? Where you've got the shitcoin mentality, which is, okay, I'm trying to go as fast as I can, stack as much fiat as I can by getting out when I need to, versus the Bitcoin mentality. Once you've gone down that path of, I'm going to not trying to get rich quickly, I'm trying to save the power of my time and energy. I'm trying to save wealth slowly. And I think that that's a huge, it's a difficult mentality shift to make when our entire system is based around the idea of just trying to scrape by, trying to get ahead, trying to do whatever you can to, keep up with the Joneses. And that's, I guess, just a bit of a curse of the current system that we live in. But I think you do start to see that mentality change, at least in, we can all probably see it change in ourselves as we've gone through this journey.
I would agree with that. And I think just to add to what you guys are saying, I agree with all of that. I think another thing that people are looking at too, that are just, they don't really understand Bitcoin, is they just watch the price and it's going up and it's going down and it feels very volatile and scary. So the thing I always just try to tell people for now is, put a little bit in and then, you'll start paying a little more attention to it, but don't put in, your entire life savings that you can't live without. And I think that's, something to consider here too, is just, like you were saying, Dallas, people don't realize that they actually can send it to other people and they can pay for things with it, because it's, you don't necessarily walk into a grocery store and say, yeah, I'm going to check out with my Bitcoin like you do with Apple Pay. I was literally on the phone with a friend last night. We were talking about it and she said she was checking out, getting food, and she was pulling up her Apple Pay and she's like, I don't even know how to work Apple Pay, let alone Bitcoin. So you've got people, who just are just still trying to wrap their head around what it actually does. So would love to hear from anybody else on, what questions you're getting or what's coming up with people who are newer to Bitcoin in your world.
One of I jokingly say this is one of the worst parts of being in Bitcoin, is the people who, I think that a lot of people probably got some text messages over the past week from people who they haven't heard from in a while because the price went up, and it's like, dude, hey, what about this Bitcoin stuff? And it's like, okay, look, if you're gonna like try to learn about it just whenever the price goes up, and like that's, you're not in the right headspace. And then they'll ask you, how much money can I make? And I'm like, okay, that's a loaded question, because it depends on how you're looking at it, because you buy some Bitcoin, you just made money. Like that can, if you look at it the right way, you made more money by buying a little Bitcoin than trying to flip meme coins and stuff like that. But it's hard, honestly, because it's these people who I am friends with and have been close with, and they just don't understand. They don't have the conviction of that I have, and it's hard to drive by orange pill them in a way to get them in a place of understanding. So I just try to microdose them and tell them, don't pay attention to the price, pay attention to what it actually does. And I can't remember. I think Carly, you may have said it, but do research on the current system that you're using. Like that's going to be what's going to push you towards Bitcoin. That's what happened with me, and that's what happened with a ton of people. Like it, one of the biggest arguments that I love to rebuttal, I don't know, is whenever people are like, well, Bitcoin is used for a lot of illegal things. I'm like, bro, let me tell you about the US dollar real quick. And that also goes for just a ton of other things. So it's just, you got to learn how to, you know, microdose the orange pills. You can't just, how much time you got. Like, you can, but yeah.
I forget who I was talking to the other day. I think it was Joe and Mark Moss, and I was sort of asking them, where do you tell people to start? And I think it's you can't just fire hose them with all the information that you know. You do have to sort of kind of meet them where they are and see what are your biggest concerns, or what are your questions, because you might start going off about one topic and it goes right over their head. But I find if you kind of meet them where they are and ask them the questions of, well, what questions do you have, or what are you noticing? It's a little bit easier to give it to them in, a little bit of a slow drip versus the big fire hose, because you can go a million different directions with it. And to speak to what you were saying, a little bit more, we live in this world of everything needs to be immediate. And so we all know, we Bitcoiners, we talk about lowering your time preference, right? And it's a simple game of patience. You gotta tell people, put money in there that, you can just set aside and you don't really need to touch, unless you have an emergency. Hopefully you don't need to touch it for the next 5 or 10 years. And then come talk to me then, and you can thank me then, but people want everything immediately. We live in like this, what I would call microwave society, where we're just used to having everything in an instant, which is, can be a beauty and a curse type of thing. Jordan, I noticed you were unmuted. I wasn't sure if you wanted to jump in and say something. No?
Be a glitch, Carly.
Okay.
If I could add two things super quick, like just on the points you guys said. I mean, I think it's really important to let normies know, like finance has been intentionally, created in a way where it's like layered and hard and really meant to like be intimidating for people, so that funnels them towards giving their money, to people who run funds or whatever, or retire, like whatever money manager is going to be, so they can just juice you with fees. And so a lot of people, it's just totally intimidating for them. But then the other side, I think, is like you said, Carly, it's like meeting people where they are. And like, I find like so few people have any like foundational kind of first principles knowledge, right? And it's like obviously very hard to teach somebody the entire history of money in 10 minutes. But I think like, just for me, I find it super effective to just tell people, like, the dollar used to be backed by gold. This is how that worked. This is how money's made now. And they're like, holy shit, like that's pretty unfair. And I think that like most people don't know that, and once they do, it's a pretty good foundation to help them understand like how Bitcoin fits into solving that for them.
Go ahead, Carla.
Well, a more sassy, unconventional way that I've seen somewhat work with our TradFi friends is just saying like, you wouldn't get it. Kind of reverse it a little bit on them. It's like, yeah, Bitcoin's probably not for you. You wouldn't get it. And then it's like, well, why is she saying that to me? And you know what? It sounds shitty and it's a little bit sassy, but like it makes people kind of irked, and they're like, what do you mean I can't get it? I can fucking get it. Oops, sorry.
Carla, we call that sat shaming.
All right, good. Sat shaming. I like that.
Yeah,
it's like you tell a little kid you can't do something. What do they want to do? The exact thing you're saying not to. Love it. Little reverse psychology action, Carla. Love it.
In terms of just making it easy for folks to understand, like we talked earlier about kind of the orange pilling in the meat space. And while it is, it's all well and good to go to somebody with the intention of saying, okay, lower your time preference and zoom out. And really, you got to think about this for about 5 years or 10 years from now. Like, most people don't want to hear that. And to try and, it's going to be effective for some, but for a lot of people, they're just worried about the day to day. But the benefit of orange pilling in the meat space is that you can have them download. Like if we're talking, we did this a number of times in Jackson Hole with different bartenders, where we would just, we were sitting there at the bar and chatting, and you just have them download a wallet quickly, and you say, I'll tip you in cash still, no problem. But here's, you can download this wallet. It'll take 2 seconds. And then I will immediately just send you Bitcoin. And I'll also get these other Bitcoiners who are around to send you Bitcoin as well. And as soon as they see, okay, I can get we're using Wallet of Satoshi because it's just a super, super fast and easy onboarding process. And they can immediately, once it's downloaded, click receive. And then you send it to them over the Lightning Network, and it takes milliseconds. And then they say, oh, wait, wow. So it's that easy. Like it's just downloading an app, and then I've got this money that you're sending me, and nobody else can touch this. Wow, that's really powerful, because it is just that. It's just money. Like we can talk about all the high-minded ideas behind it, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, it's just money that can't be fucked with. And people, again, I'll reiterate this, people who work in the service industry, people who work in the real economy, especially the cash-based economy, they understand it faster because they work with money every single day in a tangible sense. And so to show them how Bitcoin works, again, in a tangible way, is really powerful.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think, the further down the fiat rabbit hole people go, the further they're going to have to climb to get back out. And yeah, I think that's one of the beautiful things about Bitcoin is it's really the people that need it that are going to discover it first. The people that have a problem that it solves are going to be the most open to it. And at the end of the day, that's everyone. But yeah, I think it's really interesting to see like the cultural dynamics here. And to kind of tie this back to something that Hotep Jesus said is like, Bitcoin is for culture. Like that's what we're, I think, trying to fix at the end of the day is like how we relate to one another in the real world and online. And in so many ways, Bitcoin restores a kind of a function to that, despite how adversarial, the mining process is and thinking is as it relates to how Bitcoin was created. At the end of the day, it allows us to all cooperate. And I think it's just such a beautiful thing, like having, all these people on stage, everyone in the audience, like we're here for creating a better world, and Bitcoin is what enables that for us. It's this technology whose time has come, and I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone at the Bitcoin conference where we can bring this into the world and show people what Bitcoin is all about, and to kind of leave the shit show fiat banking system behind. Yeah, and for anyone who's considering going, the Bitcoin conference team and Bitcoin Magazine are waiting for you with open arms. It's going to be a blast. So if you're considering it, this is a good opportunity. If you want to use code SHITSHOW at checkout and get 15% off, that code ends today. So get on board the Bitcoin train, and we really look forward to seeing you there. And before we wrap it up, I just want to give anyone else a chance to kind of share anything with the group. Hotep, you've been pretty quiet over there, so if you have anything you want to take us out with, feel free.
Listen, man, if you're not in Miami at the greatest event on the planet, you might as well just get lost. You're not a Bitcoiner, okay? If you're not there, you're not a Bitcoiner. I don't care what anybody else says. These are the words of Hotep Jesus. If you're not at Bitcoin Miami, you are not a Bitcoiner. Do not call me and say, hey, Hotep Jesus, I'm a Bitcoiner. I didn't see you in Miami. You're not a Bitcoiner. It just comes what it comes down to. And if you can't get a ticket, maybe you didn't have enough Bitcoin. Get into Bitcoin. Get to the conference. I will see you in Miami.
So Satoshi Nakamoto strikes again. Yes, come and join us in Miami. And real quick, before we wrap up, Hotep Jesus, you had mentioned earlier of like just wanting more hands-on experiences, and Dallas, to speak to what you were saying too, I think we've all kind of said it. One thing that we are adding into the experience at the conference is we're going to have a bazaar. We're going to have a ton of lightning activations. So come with your wallets loaded, and you'll be able to actually transact and use Bitcoin. And we're really excited to give people that hands-on experience. So come join us, get your tickets, shit show at checkout. Super excited for what we're going to create in Miami. It's time. It's time for us to gather. Anybody else have any final things they want to add before we wrap?
I wouldn't mind adding something. I was unable to join you guys earlier. I was busy and also getting a run in, but I was listening to you guys. I will say that I will disagree with Hotep. I know he was saying it jokingly, maybe a little bit, but I am a true Bitcoiner. I served in the U.S. military. I love this country. I love, just entrepreneurship and freedom. But if you're a Bitcoiner that's working on like building up a business, which I hope you are, because especially if you're in America, like there's a lot of problems we need to fix, and it's going to be fixed by average citizens and the American dream that Bitcoin allows, which you guys know I've written about multiple times. So if you guys are out there, like you just focus on building, focus on providing good services, focus on building a family. Those are all of the solutions that the country needs and the world needs. So just do Bitcoin right by doing right to society, and everything will flow to you in time.
Explosion of hearts on the stage right now. Thank you for adding that, Mike. And thanks for joining us. I wish you joined us earlier, but here we are. So yeah, everyone, thank you so much. Thanks to all the speakers, Carla, Walker, Dallas, Mike, even though you're late, Hotep, Reese, Neil, Wicked. There was so many. Lana was on. I mean, I don't even remember everybody that came up. Thank you all for joining us. Keep your eye out. We're going to be doing spaces again next week. You'll be able to see those and schedule them. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Spencer.